Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. Folks, as you know, we're doing something special for Black History Month. Black History Month of February, and we're continuing with that. Well, this particular time around, I'm going to basically give you some history here from the Northeast Portland as it relates to development and real estate and the like and whatever, because my guest was there during that particular time frame aspect of it, doing his work. And I'm talking about Fred Stewart. I mean, this particular one, we couldn't find a specifically media news kind of clip that I really wanted, but the idea that we did do a groundbreaking thing that I had done on a senior citizen complex, and Fred and I we knew one another during that particular time, trying like hell to get people to buy their homes.
No, I don't think I knew you then. That was 1980.
Okay, but no, 80, right? But my point is that we were there. He was there during that time too. So what we're going to do? We're going to play this clip, and you're going to like this particular piece. It's about 12, 14 minutes in the aspect of it. But there's some folks that are there, like former Reverend John Jackson, former Commissioner Charles Jordan, and Bill McCoy. I mean, enjoy. We're going to do it right now.
Join with me in saying this is truly a historical occasion, and the history that is connected with this is more than just the fact that a building is going to be put here. It's a kind of new beginning for some of us, and I think a great deal of credit and a great deal of honor goes to Bruce and the way he has strived, the way he has brought himself to the place of having this creation. I want to say congratulations, Bruce, and then I want to offer prayer, which I hope is a memorial to this occasion. And then I'll introduce Mr. Mumford, Reverend Mr. Mumford. And Reverend Mr. Mumford will bring his group to sing. Shall we bow our heads? Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, who looks upon the whole family of man as thy children, irrespective of race, color, or creed, and who dost desire to have each one housed and clothed with beauty in the strength of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Let thy blessings rest upon Bruce Broussard and his associates as we begin the task of completing this building, the Walnut Park Apartments, to the service of humanity in the name of the Master. May we glorify thee by making human life more glorious in this building. May senior citizens live and meet here in happy fellowship. May thy spirit fill the hearts of those who inhabit this house. May their lives find development here in body, mind, and soul. May streams of generous helpfulness flow from this fountain of blessings to cheer the entire community, the city, the state, and the world. All these blessings we ask in the name of God, who created this world and human life. Amen. I'm going to ask Reverend Mr. Mumford to give us some of the music that his choir is so noted for.
Thank you, Reverend Mr. John Jackson. We're very happy to be a part of this program. I would like to apologize for some of the members of the group. Unfortunately, they're not here, and we don't worry about that, but we're going with what we have. We like to do this song and as a special dedication to all of the beautiful young senior citizens. And today we can say that the storm is passing over. Hallelujah. This will be directed by Rance McDougall, the assistant director of this group. So we're singing out. We don't have any microphones. Can you hear me out there? Say yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Huh?
The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. 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 The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. 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 The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. 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 The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. Hallelujah. Encourage my soul and let us journey on. Though the night is dark and I am far from home, can't see till dawn, the morning light appears.
Thank you and good afternoon. Over the past 2 years, Broussard and Associates have diligently worked to develop the Walnut Park apartment complex. Today, we are witnessing the kind of success that can occur through cooperation between the private and the public sector. The 38-unit single-bedroom complex is specifically designed for senior citizens. Not only is it designed to the highest of fire code requirements and soundproofing for acoustical privacy, it is designed to be energy efficient. All units, whether on the east or the west, are designed to receive soft sun in the winter, and overhangs will shade windows from the hot midday summer. Our crime prevention unit has an extensive volunteer program to train citizens in crime prevention so they can make their homes and neighborhoods safer places in which to live. Safety and security measures were also of extreme importance in the design of this complex. The ground floor units will have windows designed to prevent entrance through operating sections. The lobby will be visible from both the street and parking area. Personnel in the complex office will have full view of the parking area entrance, the community room, mailbox area, elevator lobby, and patio. Clearly, crime prevention design consideration, coupled with extensive citizen training, will foster a sense of pride and safety within the neighborhood. This housing complex is also a complementary to the city housing policy, which calls for the city to support public and private action which increase housing choices for all Portlanders. Improvements recently made to the Fred Meyer Shopping Center, street improvements now underway on Union Avenue, jobs through the Tektronic facilities and others are all indicative of the renewed economic development interests now occurring in this very viable community. We must continue to create and foster this favorable environment which attract housing, employment centers, and commercial revitalization. Broussard and Associates are to be commended for a job well done, and I encourage future private sector investment which are necessary for upgrading and maintaining the livability of this community. In addition, it is a special privilege for me because 8 years ago, Bruce and I had a very long talk about this very day. If you recall, Bruce had a very promising career in the Marines. And he came to me one day when I was Mall Cities director and said, "Charles, I'm thinking about leaving the Marine for the private sector." A very, very challenging move. Those who have been under the protective arm of Uncle Sam sometimes find it very difficult to adjust in the world outside. But Bruce and I labored over that for a number of months, and we talked about the difficulties he would encounter. the transitional period he will have to go through, as all servicemen do who leave the service. The insurance agents, working for the banks. No reflection, Bob. It's not. It's just that it's a period one has to go through in order to find themselves again. But Bruce stayed with it. He had his knocks, but he got up off the canvas and kept swinging. And this is not luck here today. This is the result of some very hard work by a very, very fine developer. And I just want to commend Bruce for those many years that we worked together, and it's especially a pleasure for me to be able to see this come to fruition. There are so many other people here who have contributed in a very strange way to what is happening here today. It didn't start with Bruce, it didn't start with me as Model Cities Director. This started a very long time ago. And so many of you contributed in so many ways. I would like to recognize some of my colleagues here and those who are aspiring to be my colleagues in the political arena, because I don't want to miss this opportunity to give them a chance to be seen. I see Mr. Gates, who is here. Mr. Gates, raise your hand. He is a candidate for one of the city commissioners' position. Not mine, but one of my colleagues. Mr. Harold Williams, who is a candidate for the legislature. Harold, you're there. Let's see. I see the mayor of the albino community, Mr. Levin, is someplace here. There he is. Not in the political arena, aspiring, but very close. Greg Smith from the State Housing Division. Where? Oh, Harold McLaurin, that's right. Let me see, who else do I see? Pat LaCrosse from Portland Development Commission. Pat, who played a very instrumental part in this whole development. And also an assistant to the governor, Jackie Winters. Where's Jackie? Right there. Okay, but there are so many other people here who have contributed in such a big way, and time will not permit, because I talked to the man upstairs, or woman, whatever your case may be, and he said he would give us a little time before he started crying on us. So I want to move right along and call on Reverend John Jackson, who will make another special introduction.
When we think of senior citizens in this area, two names stand out very prominently. I think of, almost in the same breath, I think of Edgar Jackson, and I think of Marie Smith. And I think of Edgar Jackson, who has since gone, and his activities when Edgar was 80 years old. He got himself a new career working with senior citizens. And Edgar went back to Washington, and I understand he stomped around Washington until he got some things for the community here. And it was remarkable to see a man that had gotten that old and yet had the vigor and the vitality and the vision to be able to do some of the things that he did. And along with him went Marie Smith. It's difficult to understand how people can go for years and years and years and still have a mind to do the things and still have a spirit to do the things. And I think that it's so credible to introduce Marie Smith that if any of you here can live as long and be as active at the age she is, if you can do that, I think you're more than a credit to the community. Well, come on up here, Marie, and now you speaking for all the senior citizens.
Reverend Jackson shouldn't say anything about what makes people tick. He's a minister, and he knows through God
Amen.
that I've been able to live this long and do the things that I do, and still, from now on, we want to do. I remember 2 years ago when Mr. Broussard was running for an office, we had him at our potluck, and he told us that he was going to do something like this. And you know, I think we have so many politicians who tell you what's going to happen if they get elected. He didn't get elected, and he did it. So if he hadn't got elected, he might have did bigger things. So next time he runs for office, let's elect him and see what he will do. I'm not talking to the politicians that's running now, but I have seen so many of them run and promise and never do the promise. Don't promise anything you're not going to do, because we're watching you. This isn't a political thing, but it goes along. And I want like to tell you how proud I am to represent all the seniors that's here, that's coming on, and don't think that we're not working for you when you get to be seniors. And you should be working with us, because if you live long enough, you're going to be a senior. But you're old as you think you are. And let's start working now together to have one great center, beautiful new center, over here for the seniors. As we were going through on Mr. Gates's Hole in the Donut program, where we went outside of the city to see the centers, we saw Oswego, Beaverton, Hillsborough, beautiful centers. We saw Loaves and Fishes activity. And there it looked like a big restaurant with 4 people sitting around with flowers on the table and everything. This is what we're going to do if we get a chance. We're going to have a senior citizens Loaves and Fishes and set them up like they're at a restaurant, because some of them hadn't had a chance to go in a restaurant. Not their fault, but we just couldn't go into restaurants. So we're going to bring the restaurants to the seniors, and the best we have if we get a chance. And we want you to be behind us and to do that. I could talk all day, but I won't. So I am glad to receive this building for the seniors, and I know they're going to enjoy it. And a building with everything intact, that's something that's impossible to think about. So we are be happy to have this 38 apartment. And don't everybody try to get in it. Don't move out of your house. Now, thank you, everybody.
Before we go into the ribbon cutting, I just noticed that Senator McCoy just came up. He works with young people, but maybe he wanted to say something to the senior citizen.
Well, I want to congratulate all of you on this fine structure that is proposed. Contrary to what Reverend Jackson says, I think my beginning work in the legislature was with senior citizens. We chaired the first aging committee in the United States for a state, and have gone on from there.
Using foster grandparents.
And I also worked in the foster grandparent program for 9 years at Providence.
That's right.
Yes, I want to congratulate you again, and we know that this fine structure will be a credit to this community.
Thank you. Can Charles stop politicking a little while and come over here? Ms. Smith?
Yes.
This calls for the ribbon cut.
Oh, you better cut the ribbon. Am I going to cut it? Oh, I didn't know I was to cut it.
Come on over here.
I'm sorry. How you want to do
You going to let me do it, Charles?
it? Sure, let you do it. I'll just...
Yeah, we're just going to stand here
down
and watch you
hold
do
it
it.
for you.
This is the first time I've ever cut a ribbon.
You're cutting the toughest part of
Yeah,
all.
you
Cut it
can't
down
cut the
here.
thin
Now
part.
I want to cut this.
You can keep it.
Congratulations. Keep the ribbon.
You keep that. This is yours.
Keep the ribbon in the center.
You sit.
Oh, thank you.
Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
40-something. Hey. Look like we are back. I thought maybe that might be something that might fit in, if you will, during this particular month, because there was a lot of history there.
Tons of
And
history.
there was a lot of folks there. And it just was, like I said, my guest today is Fred Stewart. And Fred was born and raised here. But
No, I wasn't born here.
He was born here.
No.
No. My mind. I'm saying your
Oh,
mindset.
okay.
The things that he's familiar with is he knows, and he and I both. In fact, we were doing things. I was doing things on the end, but still, it was in the idea of identifying with community. And we're very concerned about the lack of ownership of real estate, and knowing how important real estate was, aspect of it. And so we went through those ventures, and that's why I wanted to play this piece. But he's had a lot of clippings that hopefully we're gonna be. I want to find those, and I want to play that because there was a lot of media stuff that Fred did because he was out there talking again, constantly trying to get people to purchase their homes and telling them the value and whatever. But I wanted to make sure that I played this piece because it just kind of just put things in perspective. Now what we're going to do now, we're going to spend the rest of the time.
Go on. To this day, this is one of the reasons why I am the way I am with some black folks in Portland. To this day, I don't know why black people who call themselves, well, white people call them black leaders. How come they don't talk about that day? You were the first black man to build an apartment building, I think, in the state of Oregon, let alone Portland. And you did that when interest rates were probably averaging 17, 18%.
Yeah. And
you built that right behind Fred Meyer's. Oh, my God. I mean, that is such a historical moment in the black history of Oregon. I mean, that's...
But I get to say the same thing about you.
Well,
I mean, how many homes did you sell?
Well, in inner north and northeast Portland, I've sold about 730 addresses.
That's right.
But it's about 1,100 transactions.
Wow.
Something like that. But I'm still, I mean, I'm 58. I'm hoping I'm not done yet. I was hoping I'm not far from. I mean, I'm far away from retirement. I still think there's other things I got to do. But Bruce, there was nobody like you before you at all. You understand? I mean, I got black teachers. We had black teachers. They're not very many, but we had black teachers, even back in the 30s. We had them at Vanport. We had black teachers at Vanport. Mm-hmm. We didn't have very many. I will admit that, but we had them. We've had black doctors. Our first black doctor was a black female. She basically gave up in this area and left. Then we had Dr. Unthink.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Herman Plummer, remember Herman?
Yeah, Mr. Plummer. He was one of the first five black real estate brokers.
Yep.
But when it comes to what you did in that clip right there, nobody black in Oregon history had ever done that before, ever. And actually, if you look back at it, this is 1980, this video, up to 25 years earlier, okay? Just 25 years earlier. We're talking 9 years before I was born. Mm-hmm. It was illegal. Mm-hmm. You couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. You could have had the great ideas, the knowledge, the skills, and everything. You would have had to have hired or gone in partnership, probably hired a white guy to be able to pull that off. Mm-hmm. And that white guy would be the one getting the credit because it's illegal for you to get the credit. Mm-hmm. We're talking just 25 years, Yeah. So black leaders, any of you guys see this, if you ever wonder why, I'm friendly to you and stuff like that, but why I don't trust a lot of you, it's little stuff like this. You know what I'm talking about? Because Bruce does this, and then you figure, if you look at the trajectory of black real estate since 1980, I mean, I didn't come around for another 8 years, but by the time I got in, there was about 25 other black people in real estate. There was actually, I forgot his name just that quick, I think it was Michael Cooper. There was even a black real estate developer building homes here in Portland in the 80s. We had so much growth. I'll just say from the moment you put that property in the ground to today. Matter of fact, one day, Bruce, I'm going to throw a party so you can meet a lot of these young black real estate brokers and developers and contractors and mortgage brokers. Mm-hmm. We got more than we've ever had before, and they're doing good. They're doing very good. I mean, I've been impressed with the professionalism that they're bringing, to the industry. They're not just walking around going, "I'm black, throw me business." Mm-hmm. I mean, these people, as my grandfather used to like to say, these dogs can hunt. They're good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People like you need to see them, and they need to see you.
Well, but now I want them to see you. Oh, because this is Black History Month.
They see me enough.
And bottom line, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and then I'm somewhat familiar with the fact that you put this piece together. I want you to talk about this venture that you have right now, and with all of that background and expertise in real estate, you put this together. First, Vanport.
Yep.
Vanport, a title company.
Yep, I named it after Vanport City, a city I never was in. I wasn't even born in.
And that's Vancouver, Portland.
Well, it's where Delta Park is right now. Well, it's more than just Delta Park, but when you're in Delta Park, you're in part of Vanport.
Yeah, Vanport.
When I first moved here, matter of fact, I heard about Vanport. My grandfather first told me about Vanport. God, it must have been 2 or 3 years before I came to Portland. You know, when he was talking about Portland and his life and everything, and you know, the kid. And anyway, from the moment I stepped into Portland, Oregon, my grandfather talked about Vanport. The first day, August 16th, 1976, when we moved here, we drove down to Delta Park. That was how big a deal Vanport was. And I grew up with him talking about Vanport, and my friends, grandparents, sometimes they were white. That's what always shocks me. You got black and white people who are all connected,
Right.
you know, to Vanport.
Right, exactly.
But I've heard stories about Vanport pretty much my entire life after about, I'd say, 8, 9. Wow. I was 8, 9 when I first heard about Vanport. And so when I decided to go into the escrow and title side of the real estate industry, Vanport Escrow and Title is an escrow and title company. It's Oregon's first black-owned escrow and title company. It's the only independent title company that's operational in Portland, Oregon. It's the first one in the last 50 years. And I'm one of the few. There's only 6 black people in the United States owns and operates a escrow and title company. I'm the only one west of the Mississippi. Period. And I'm the first ever in all those states. There's never been anybody like this in Washington. Well, me, because we're now operational in Washington. But Vanport Escrow and Title is how I want to retire. That's what I want to leave behind.
So let's talk about first. Let's define it first. What's a title company?
Well, escrow and title is two things.
How did you get it?
It's a two-handed type of business. You got escrow. Most people understand what escrow is. Escrow is all the documents and all the money going to escrow. Everything is processed. The people who are supposed to get the money, usually the sellers, and anybody else, they get their money. And the people who get the property, you know, the buyers, and everybody understands that the process is this is the meeting point.
Okay.
Title is in the United States. All title records go back to the very beginning. So in the state of Oregon, literally title records go all the way back to when we were just a territory. Back when Clackamas County went all the way up into Canada and all the way down to Mexico. Believe it or not, Clackamas County is one of the oldest counties in the United States. So basically, when you're buying real estate, buying title insurance, you're not insuring the title forward. You're insuring title backwards. So there's no unseen interest going all the way back to when it was a territory, all the way back. Now, you know, by now we don't have that much risk from, you know, somebody coming back saying my grandparents or whatever from 1860s had a claim on this, so therefore I get it. That's very rare. Could happen. Extremely rare. But, you know, something could come up with judgments or something like that from, let's say, in the last 50 years. So roughly most issues come up in the last 50 years. And it's very important insurance. Most lenders require it. I think everybody should always get it because you don't know what lurks in the past, as they say. And but it's insurance that insures from a period of time that's already occurred. Doesn't insure title for the future. And so that's what we provide. You know, we're an agency, so we provide it through third party, but still, this is an area no man's ever gone before. The reason why it's important for me to do this, one, I'm just curious if I can do it. It's like anything else you have in your professional life. But I think it's very important for black people to go here because we're not growing as much as people might think. You know, I was pointing out to a good friend of mine, if you take just Chase Manhattan Bank by itself, standalone, if you took the top 20 black-owned banks in the United States, one, and this is the scary one, they made more money in January 2001 than the value of the top 20 black-owned banks in the United States.
Wow.
Than the value, the total value. Period. They could literally
Chase did.
And they'd have a lot of money left over.
Chase did.
Chase. And that's just one of our $5 trillion banks.
Who are the others? Is there several others maybe?
Oh, Citigroup is one. There's several. Okay. You know, U.S. Bank is on that list. Wells Fargo, of course. And black people, we're not in the game of economic development yet. When I say economic development, I'm talking about when you hear the political part, you know, urban renewal. I'm talking about real growth with the economy. And I feel Vanport is one of the companies. I think all 6 of the escrow and title companies in this country that are owned by black people. I think they all are going in that direction. But we got to work harder. We got to work harder, and we got to work better, because the spread of wealth between black people and white people is not shrinking. It's expanding. I mean, Elon Musk last year lost $189 billion by himself.
Who is it? Who is it?
Elon Musk owns, Twitter and Tesla and SpaceX. If that's true, and he says it's true, he said he invested it and stuff, but he said basically, that's how much money I lost last year. That white guy who moved here from South Africa lost more money than the cap rate of the entire black population of the United States of America.
Wow.
By himself. That just shows you the gulf of wealth between white America and black America. It is like, white people are as far away from black people economically as Alpha Centauri is from Earth. You know what I mean? It is way out.
I heard that.
And, we know why it's this way. But part of the reason why it's this way is we need, more black people doing things like what Van Port's doing. We need more stuff like that. We need to do more equity and wealth creation type stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I created this. Now, when I started Vanport, I didn't know I was the first black person to ever have done it. I just didn't. It just never crossed my mind. Didn't find out until after I got into it. From people who've been in this industry, we'll put it like this. One guy who told me that he knows nobody black has ever done it, got into the industry in 1958. It was absolutely illegal for me to do what I'm doing today up until 1955. Wow. So we know no black guy could have done it before 55. Mm-hmm. So the odds are, what are the odds that a black guy did it between 55 and 58? Mm-hmm. Kind of small. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very excited about it, and I appreciate all the support people have given it. We're located over in North Portland, over in North Lombard, and we're probably one of the more advanced technical escrow companies. We don't have to, but we have the capabilities to close completely virtually. So technically, we can close a transaction with anybody that has access to the internet on planet Earth. We can close anywhere. And very proud of my people. Got some good people there. And one of the people that works for me is a guy that we're very proud of. He's 20 years old, and he's a title officer. And as far as we know, and as far as anybody's been able to figure out, he is the first black title officer, at least he's in training to be a title officer in the United States. It's crazy.
Is that a certified position type thing?
It is. It's a skilled position, but it's one of those OJT things. It's an area I'm hoping to get more minorities involved in. One is it's an area of business that the baby boomers are moving out, and there's a lot of opportunity because as they retire out, these positions aren't being filled. And I think it's a great area for black people to get into for employment, also to understand how this country was put together, how communities are put together from the real estate side, who the owners are and how things work. There's a lot of things about real estate and banking and stuff that collectively black people just don't know because we're just learning. We weren't allowed to really understand or know because we didn't have access. Like I was telling people, my first bank account or checking account was with the NAACP, 1980. So March of 1980, I opened up my first checking account at the NAACP. And why was the NAACP in Portland having a checking and savings account?
They had a branch?
Right over there on Williams Avenue. Right over there. Mrs. Rutherford was the one I opened it up with. Mrs. Rutherford herself. I was just a kid. I was just, 15. But I heard the stories. Black people didn't trust banks in Portland. Because it's not so much you had to worry about the bank stealing your money. You had to worry about the tellers, for a long time. Now, by the time I got on the scene, things had definitely gotten better. You know what I mean? But we're talking 30s, 40s, 50s, the old folks. And I would hear stories about a guy, putting $50 in his savings account, right? Which was a lot of money back in the 50s or 40s and stuff. And the teller deciding that she or he needed $5 or $10. They just take it. Just take it. And you knew if the bank failed, because not so much that we ever had a bank fail in Portland, but nationally, who are the ones that were going to lose their money first. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so a lot of black people, old black folks, did not trust banks, and for good reason. So that's why NAACP had checking and savings accounts, and they weren't as functional even back then as others. But you had a safe place you could put your money, you know,
and get it back.
And then people say to me, "Well, Fred, how did the NAACP? Did they have a safe or something?" I said, "Well, I saw a safe, but look, up until Tom Johnson died, there was nobody on planet Earth crazy enough to rip Tom Johnson. Oh my God, he would have sent guys to wherever your family's from, got them too. You know, Tom Johnson was a black leader in Portland up until he died about 1965, and Tom Johnson was also a major crime boss here in Oregon, and that's what was the benefactor and the protector of a lot of black people here in Oregon. Nobody ever talks about him, to a degree for good reason. I mean, he was, I don't know. I mean, some parts of me, when I think of the stories I was told by the people that knew him and worked for him, like my grandfather, some parts I see as positive. There are other parts, not so positive. Not so positive. But anyway, we're going back to real estate. It's very important. The reason I came on the show today, Bruce, a lot of people don't understand that things are changing in the real estate field for everybody. We've got a housing shortage. When people tell you that there's a housing shortage, believe them, it is. Because of housing policies, and Portland is not the only city that's made this mistake. We're probably one of the worst. We are probably one of the worst.
Now, when you speak of housing shortage,
it's not meeting the population growth. We've not built enough housing to accommodate the growth in population as it has.
Do you include the homeless?
We have homeless to a degree. In some cases, not all of them. Some are just druggies and child molesters that can't find a place to live. Yeah, we got that. But the people you've seen living in vans and stuff, and they're living in their cars, living in RVs, a lot of those people would be able to live in affordable housing had this city allowed enough housing to be built. We've got people who are homeless right now, not because they don't work or because they're bad people or because they're druggies. They're couch surfing and camping the best they can because we physically do not have the housing for them to rent.
But do they have the rent?
They would have the rent if we had enough housing. Our housing is expensive because it's been constricted by not building enough housing. First, we got the urban growth boundary, and I'm not speaking out against it. I'm just saying this is like an island. We can only build so far out.
Right.
So that means since we're not building more real estate or adding more space, the space within becomes more and more and more critical, more in demand. You only have so much space.
Right.
You only have so many units. You understand? If you're not building enough units to meet the demand of the population that's there, you're going to have people left out. Just like the old kids game, Simon Says, when the music stops. Well, the music's stopping right now. The music's stopping right now. Right now, only upwardly mobile people from middle class and higher families are buying real estate right now. People like my mother. When my mother bought her home in 1985, she was much like a lot of the people I sold homes to the first, let's say, 5-10 years of my business. They weren't rich. They weren't poor. They were, what do you want to call it, working class. They were working class. And buying real estate was a way to stabilize their housing costs so they could grow economically. If you look at everybody, I won't say everybody because there's always an exception, but most people who buy their homes do better economically going forward than people who just keep renting because they've secured a cap on their housing costs, their space costs. This goes back to when the country first started. So this city, as well as others, has a very bad situation with housing shortage. And right now on the market, we only got about 3,400 homes on the market for a market with 1 million people in it. 3.5 million aggregately, in the entire total Portland market. And here we got only 3,400 homes. And by the way, that includes Vancouver. So 3,400 homes. When I got into real estate in 1988, we had at least 12,000 homes on the market. 12,000. Now look at the difference in population back then to the difference in population today. And people are wondering, well, why is everything so expensive? Well, it's going to the highest bidder. We don't build housing for the lower bidders. Our city, the people we have voted for, have specifically got Well, they've specifically refrained from allowing housing to be built at the level that we need in this market. And I know they got all this housing bond stuff, and that's good. And I know that a lot of people in the city have seen the error of their ways in trying to fix it. But the public sector is only going to be able to handle so much. They're not going to be able to handle it all. And as long as we don't have a positive relationship with private sector developers, as long as they're not building in this town, our poor people are screwed over.
And that's including homeless.
That's including the homeless. But you're going to see, and then now we got the tolls coming in. Oh my God, that's gonna.
Who is this now?
The toll roads. The toll roads are going to be even harder on the working poor.
Really?
Harder. Well,
how's that?
You're talking about $8 to $10 to cross the river. If you are in Portland and you make less than $100,000 a year, and you got to cross the river every day to get to go to your job, to do your work. See what I'm talking about? So it's going to have a lot of social impacts to this city that aren't talked about. That does connect to housing. Who buys what housing? In other words, more middle class people are going to be buying over in the Portland side. You know what I'm talking about? Than buying in Vancouver. And the people are going to be buying in Vancouver that work in Vancouver, this is La Vida Loca. This is awesome. They're going to have less competition, for their housing over there. And this is awesome for them. You know what I mean? Just totally awesome. But the people who have jobs, over there but work over here, or the people who work over here and work over there, you're going to see the middle class deviate to the Portland side. Middle class and above. You deviate to the Portland side. Well, it's going to spread because guys making a ton of money. He's not going to care about the $8 to $10 each way. Right. You're probably talking about the people between the wages of $50 and let's say $150,000 a year. Those families, you're going to see a lot of them shift over to the Portland side. Because that's just how we are. Now think about it. Where are they going to live? What houses are they going to buy? You know what I mean? And then, over in Vancouver, even though they're building a ton of housing, most of it's apartments, 1 and 2 bedrooms. Where do you put your family? If your mom and dad have to move in with you, where do they live? Where do they stay? In the living room? Kitchen? You know what I mean? So it's going to make single family housing more of a demand. 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. God, anything that size and bigger, it's going to be in high demand. And we know this is happening because these people are alive already. And they just started turning 30 in the year 2020. So this population of kids that would turn 30 in 2020, right? And were born in 2020. Just that population right there, 30 years. We're taking a 30-year time span. Is twice as large as the baby boomer population of home buyers. So they just started getting into their home buying, high income earning years. And we don't have the houses for them. Not yet. And unfortunately, or fortunately, those 30-year-olds, their parents and grandparents are living longer. So they're staying in their houses longer. So they're going to be older before that wealth gets transferred down to them, if it gets transferred at all.
But Fred, when you think about it from a historical standpoint, we've had this conversation years back.
People saw this coming. I first heard about it about 20 years ago.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, people have been talking about this but it's real, and you see it.
But what have they've done?
It's very difficult.
You hear the high numbers. You hear that to the taxpayer.
It's very
difficult. It's going to go up, but then all of a sudden, where are the houses?
We're very difficult. We've unfortunately had a lot of people get involved with our government policy making that were anti-wealth creation. So they see a developer walk in the door. They would rather, ready for this, spend $500 a foot to build a 1-bedroom apartment, right? Than have a developer do the same thing for $100 a foot.
Right.
You get what I'm meaning?
Right.
Why? Because the developer might make some extra money and pay a lot of extra taxes. I was pointing out to one of my wealth-hating people who's unfortunately a member of our government, not elected. Guy's just a lowlife. But what I'm getting to is, I point out to him that the capital gains of this particular builder he was hating on. So do you understand that builder paid over $20 million in capital gains?
Yeah.
Now, we're not talking about 20,000. We're not talking about 200 grand. We're talking to our government that pays you. Guy's written a check about $20 million for all the houses he built. And you're sitting up here saying it's better for us, what, to not collect that money? Because when the government builds something, guess what we don't get? Any taxes. We don't even get property taxes. We get no taxes. We get nothing. But this guy builds something, and guess what? We get taxes for it. And what do we use those taxes for? To pay for services for everybody in the market. Right. So while you're sitting up here hating on this guy and doing everything you could to make sure this guy ain't building in my town, in our town you just moved here to get a job, town that I grew up in, this is my hometown, right?
Right.
While you're keeping him from paying taxes to us, you're making the problem we got in this town harder, worse. That's why I think it's a lowlife, and I'm saying that because I say it to his face. People like him just drive me nuts because he's going to retire and get the hell out of Portland and done all this damage to housing. Got people living under bridges, digging holes for toilets and stuff. Oh my God, it's crazy. You know what I mean? But he's good with that. He's okay with that because, hey, God forbid somebody who builds a house, makes a little money. Crazy. And that's why we had things like that get in the way. And then we've got the NIMBYs who don't want their neighborhood changed. Yeah. And unfortunately, and I can feel them, there's parts of Portland I hope never changes. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We're only here so long, and once we're gone, we don't care. Not that we don't want to care, we just don't. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? We're gone. Mm-hmm. So why should someone not have the opportunity to have an affordable home living in our town? You understand? That is very important. Why should somebody not have that because you don't want to see an extra unit or extra house on your block or whatever?
Right.
We got so many people suffering. And I don't know, I don't want to be too negative, but we just got this mean streak that we just can't. We just don't care.
But what about our representatives, those elected officials who represent us? There's words like eminent domain, there's all kinds of packaged kinds of things that you can change the concept.
The people we vote for, they're a reflection of us.
Right.
You understand?
Right,
We've had people run for office who've said the stuff that I've said, had called out the warning.
Yeah.
They don't get votes. Okay, yeah. They don't get votes.
I know that's right.
You know what I'm talking about? They don't get votes.
Yeah, that's right.
No, to be honest, and I'm not trying to be cynical, but it's very difficult to be truthful and run for office. It's very difficult. The best people, they play a good game of not saying anything or being very good liars. It depends. But it's very difficult because the voters. See, the reason why we're here is the voters ultimately have not held people accountable for failing in this area. And it's a failure in an area
but they don't know how to, though.
Well, you're right. They may not, and that's why I talk about it, and others are beginning to talk about it. We've got the ability. We got some incredibly smart housing. Let me back up here. We got some incredibly dumb housing advocates, and I can't even stay in the room with some of them. But we've also got some incredibly smart ones. Just drop dead eye. And they've been talking about this and dealing with housing in our market 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And they know their stuff.
Right.
And unfortunately, those aren't the guys that are listened to. It's the idiots that walk in the room. And that's why I tell people, I'm focusing on this because I want to build Vanport and everything like that. But man, if I ever get like a diagnosis of terminal cancer, there's just some people just got something to worry about because I know they're in this town to hurt it. This stuff is so obvious. Who would not want to build affordable housing? Who would not want more housing for an average person? Why should a person spend half or more against their will of their income for housing to live here? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
That's what failure looks like.
Wow.
You understand? That's what failure looks like. You failed. Okay? It doesn't have to be that way. Because, we got plenty of people who can afford that same space, and it ain't half of their income. It's a quarter of their income. Sometimes less. So these people who can't, who are spending half of their income, they're competing with a growing population of people who are wealthier than them. And that's why you've got people living in their RVs. I mean, I've met people several times who could afford a monthly rent. They couldn't afford the money to get into it.
Wow.
You understand? I know people who could, I mean, you could get them into a condo, but the HOA fees are so high because utilities are so high. You know, it was floated out like 10 years ago that maybe some properties that have an average age range of like 50 or whatever like that. I mean, maybe they should get a break on their utilities. You know what I'm talking about and stuff? Where did that go? You know what I mean? And where the person that came up with that, I honestly think was trying to find a way to make HOAs more affordable. Because they knew the baby boomer generation is aging out. They're going to be retired, and a lot of them live in they sold their home, would buy condos or other things where they're HOAs. But like I said, we don't get that type of planning and thinking, consistently in our government. I'm just saying this because I'm hoping things, would change. My preview right now is, I'm trying to push Vanport, onto a national level, bit by bit, small by small. So believe it or not, I don't think about Portland as much. But yet, you invited me to come here and talk about real estate. And I want everybody to know that they need to hurry up and buy their piece and help your family, help people you love. Families need to work together to buy housing.
What is it going to cost you to buy an average home, if you will?
Well, values are dropping right now because there's fewer people in the market, thank God. We don't have the interest rates we had 2-3 years ago, thank God. And we're not going to, even though everybody's expecting interest rates to drop. Right now, when I last checked, it was like just a little bit above 6%. But I've been hearing bond market guys and capital market guys, debating about whether or not it's going to drop. Everybody says it's going to drop into the 5s. Everybody. The question is how deep in the 4s it's going to drop. Okay? And pretty much most economists look at 5, when rates drop to 5, that's going to be the launch point. It's going to be a launch point where you're going to have enough people who can afford the home at 5%, that they are going to just basically buy up most of the inventory. So only 1 point. 1 point. And then you got banks right now dropping some incredible programs out. 3-2-1 buy downs where they're allowing the borrower to buy down their rate permanently or temporarily. You know what I mean? To hedge against, the future. There are people right now closing transactions where their initial rate is 3%. And their cap rate is 6%. So, and they won't see 6% for 3 years. But what if they refinance it in a year or two to a 5 or 4? Nobody's expecting to see 7 anytime soon. You know what I mean? So, no, there are people out there right now who are buying homes right now, and they have no idea. Well, maybe some of them do. They are literally doing nothing but helping their family for the future, because we're not going to have as much housing available for people for a while, and especially 3- and 4-bedroom homes. They're going to be in high demand for obvious reasons. You got people working from home. You got families. Baby boomers are living longer. So we're already seeing more mother-in-laws and father-in-laws living with their kids. Extended families. And we're even seeing where brothers and sisters are living with each other because of the cost of housing. And so you need more space. 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, that's not going to affect. It's good to have them. We need them. People start out and stuff like that. But what happens after the husband and wife have had their second kid? You know what I mean? Are they going to put them both in one bedroom and they stay in another? How long is that going to last? You know what I'm talking about? I mean, there's a lot of things that are coming that are not like, when it comes to housing, that are not like anything we've seen in the past. And that's why I tell people, buy and help your friends and family that are the closest to you. Help them buy. People need to work together. This is a different market than our parents, different market than our grandparents. Us baby boomers, we cannot. I mean, I bought my house for $37,000, and I paid $5,000 too much. The same week I bought my house for $37,000, I sold 2 houses combined were $30,000. Combined, they were $30,000 to friends of mine. You know what I mean? People I grew up with. I mean, we had that option. $15,000 for a house in 1989.
I remember that.
That was not hard.
I remember that.
You know what I mean? That was not hard. Not compared to $500,000.
That's right.
You know, so you're 25 years old, you want to buy a house, right? And you buy this house, and you're looking at $500,000. I can't imagine that.
That's right. That's
You know,
right. That's right.
me, I thought $37,000 was a lot of money.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And it hurts me that a lot of guys out there aren't getting that moment. I mean, don't like the women today. I mean, we're not together, but one of the good moments in my life was the day I gave my ex-wife the keys to that house. I mean, moments like that, you only have so many. It's like graduating from boot camp. It's like that first job.
Oh, yeah.
Your average kid, your average guy can't do that now.
No.
You know what I mean? And it's only because it's artificially inflated because our housing policies have failed us so badly. I mean, just flat failed us across the board.
Wow.
Not kept up with changing technology, not keeping up with population growth. You know, it hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. Maybe things will change with the new government. Maybe we'll have some housing advocates jump in, some good business people jump in, and we'll focus on this. But until some things change, I mean, Bruce, just to do a permit, I had a guy show me to permit for a new house he wants to build.
Yeah.
Right? Now, he wants to build this house on property his family has owned for 50 years.
Free and clear.
I don't know if it's free and clear, but they're taking basically the side yard and building a house for his oldest daughter and her husband.
Right.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Now they already own the land.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
$170,000 for permits.
170,000.
$170,000 for permits.
Jeez.
Now $70,000 would be an insult. $70,000 because if you tried to do the same thing in San Francisco, it'd be like 40. You understand? It'd be like 40. If he was over in Boise, Idaho, it'd be like 20. Here, it's almost $200,000. Now he can do it because our family already owns the property.
Right.
What do you think? If a builder there's no way a builder would build a spec home on that. And only the richest people in the room could afford to buy the lot, pay the development fees, pay the cost of building it. I mean, come on.
Oh, Fred.
You know, and that's in the city of Portland. And while that's going on, you know, we got people living in RVs. You get what I mean? Living in RVs and going to work every day.
That's right.
Going to work every day after, like I said. Anyway.
Well, hey, look.
Hope it helped.
This has been great. You know, you're right in the middle of it, buddy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. I'm looking at housing markets, Bruce, nationally, every day, and it's fascinating.
Oh, wow.
I love what I do. I love real estate. Always have. I'm one of the luckiest black men in America.
Well, right on for Vanport. We appreciate that very much, my friend.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, and it is a historical time.
It is a historical time.
And I want to get you back on so we can talk about some
anytime.
other issues. Okay?
I want to talk more about real estate.
Okay, sounds great.
And lending.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you just stay right there for a moment.
All right.
Folks, well, yeah, as you can see, we've had Fred here on. We've talked a little bit about the real estate aspect of it. Join us again for another episode within the Black History Month, and we'll be doing this about another week or so. Okay, next week. Have a good one. Take care. I'll see you later. Take care. Bye. It's good, man.